So Barcelona, for the next 4 to 5 weeks, they will be playing a lot of matches. And we all know how those games are going to be turning out. We're going to be seeing the best out of Rafinha, Lewandowski, Lamine Yamal, Gavi, Pedri, Frenkie de Jong, Alejandro Balde. Barcelona is quite literally the best team in the world, or at the very least, that is my own opinion. But Barcelona is going to be having multiple chances to destroy these teams. But one of the players that I do want to focus on is going to be Lamine Yamal, because let me tell you guys, with the way that I saw Yamal play for the Spanish national team, it was phenomenal. Everything that he does want to do on the pitch, it happens, okay? That is a whole other different level of being a footballer. You do have the players of Salah, Bernardo Silva, right? Those wingers who try to do those brilliant things or brilliant attacking plays that sometimes does go through or it does not go through, right? Unsuccessful take-ons, successful take-ons. But with Lamine Yamal, 98% of the time, everything that he wants to do with the ball, it actually happens. Very similar to Lionel Messi. Everything that Messi was doing through the ages of 20 to 29 years old, it just happened because you're just that good. With Lamine Yamal is no different, which is a very scary level. Hence the reason why I am pretty certain that Lamine Yamal will get some goals. He will be getting some assists against Osasuna, against Atletico Madrid. We also have Borussia Dortmund coming in the way. There is going to be many chances for Lamine Yamal to really impress the world. And when I saw him play for the Spanish national team, I'm like, yeah, you're ready. Like, you are just ready. You are clearly at the best time of your career, and he's only going to go up from there. But here is going to be the scary part about this whole thing. There is that little situation that I keep thinking about that's always at the back of my mind, and that is, could Lamine Yamal's ego get too big? And the reason why I am bringing this up is because it's not just because I'm starting to hate on Lamine Yamal or because I have an agenda against Yamal. No, hell no. Okay, this is my player. This is a player that is one of my favorites. He represents FC Barcelona very well, and I want him to prosper. I want the best out of him. But it also does not mean that Lamine Yamal has to go out there and be cocky, be arrogant, and act in a certain way. Because I wouldn't even like if Messi did that during his young years. And of course, Messi didn't. Messi was very humble. He did not reply to whatever the media was saying. He just kept very focused and all to himself. But with Lamine Yamal, I'm starting to get that idea that maybe, right, it just maybe, he might be heading towards a direction where it might not be the best, which is to think that you can do whatever you want, you can respond to whoever you want, and most importantly, which is not a good thing, to have the media in your head. That is a very scary situation to be in as somebody who does watch football. It's scary because we have seen multiple young players have the media get through their heads and they end up becoming very individualistic and end up not caring about the overall team performance. It happens to so many youngsters. And with Lamine Yamal, because of how good he is, there are so many people in the media that are starting to talk against Lamine Yamal. And Lamine Yamal, for some reason, he does like to respond back, as he should, of course, right? Like I've said, I have no problem with Lamine Yamal finding that extra motivation. But too much of something can become a problem. For example, Vaart, a journalist, did speak about Lamine Yamal on Monday, which was earlier this week, and before the match between Spain and the Netherlands. And this is what he said about Lamine Yamal. I noticed some things about Lamine Yamal that started to annoy me. His shorts were too low. He didn't try too hard. He had some superficial gestures. And I did not like this. So when Vaart made that comment about Lamine Yamal, a couple of hours later, Lamine Yamal scored against his nation, which was the Netherlands. He scored the third goal, and that third goal was amazing. We're like, oh my god, like the way that he controlled the ball, he dribbled past one of the defenders, he scored the goal. It was amazing. And then Lamine Yamal posted on Instagram once the game was over and Spain went to the semifinals of the Nations League, and he said, caption, pants down, a goal, a missed penalty, and in the semifinals, go Spain. This was a clear response to what the journalist did say before the match. Lamine Yamal scored and he said, okay, I'm gonna do this celebration, putting my pants down, mocking what he said, and I'm also going to post a caption on Instagram that does attack him. And then he even posted another picture of his shorts being down. Even 9 to 10 hours after the game was over, he was still clearly thinking about those comments. Vaart replied back and stated, he's very good, but what bothers me are his intentions. When you receive so much praise at just 17 years old, you think the world revolves around you. My advice is to not worry so much about a former player who is fat and says something. I just hope he keeps his feet on the ground. So I want to make it very clear. In terms of this situation alone, thank God Lamine Yamal proved this journalist wrong and humbled him. I'm happy to see that. I really am, because it just makes football a lot more fun. And it also does show that Lamine Yamal is just that good. You comment on the player, he'll score a goal against your team or your national team. But like what I've said in the beginning of this video, too much of something, and especially media influence, will harm the player. And I need Lamine Yamal to know that. And I hope that Hansi Flick, who spends the most time with him, to know that. Because let me tell you, when you continue to take on these comments from the media, it's going to amount to a lot of pressure on the player. Let me paint this picture. Can you imagine a journalist saying, Lamine Yamal is never going to score against Real Madrid, and so Yamal ends up trying to score against Real Madrid because somebody said that, and then somebody said, Lamine Yamal is never going to get through Rudiger because he is the best center back in the world, and then he tries to get through Rudiger over and over again to prove a point, and then somebody else says, Lamine Yamal could never defend for his life. He can never track back. All he does is to think about attacking, and then you see Lamine Yamal sprinting all the way back, even though it may not be necessary, trying to prove a point, trying to regain the ball. It eventually leads to a yellow card because he gets so frustrated because once again he's trying to prove a point that he can steal the ball away from the opposition and go on to the attack. And then somebody else says, Lamine Yamal hasn't scored in 3 games. I thought he was supposed to be a player that can score 2 goals in every match. Everybody was hyping this youngster up, but I don't see him scoring a lot of goals. He hasn't scored in 5 to 6 matches. This player is not it. And then you see Lamine Yamal, let's just say for example against Atletico Madrid, trying to shoot as many times as possible, even though there might be players around him that are open like Rafinha or Lewandowski, and you just see Lamine Yamal making a lot of dumb decisions. You see how it does amount to something very negative and overall does dilute the team performance. This is the thing that I am mostly afraid of. It eventually does lead towards the player having a very big ego and becoming very individual, which is what we don't want. Messi was a master at this. Anytime they tried to trash Messi back when he was 19, 20, 21 years old, he never listened. I mean, like, obviously we are very much in a different time where social media is much more direct to the consumer. These days you can hear all the voices from any platform, through X, through Instagram, through Facebook, whatever you use, Snapchat, whatever, OnlyFans, Tumblr, YouTube, you find these comments from anybody. And Lamine Yamal is exposed to all of it. It's very important to protect this player because the last thing that I do want is for Lamine Yamal to get overconsumed by this and he ends up not fulfilling his true potential. And let me tell you, I'm saying this not because I want Yamal to lower his ego or I'm trying to put him down. No, I actually care about the player. You guys don't if you guys are going against me, but I do care about this player and I want him to be very consistent and successful and to score more goals and more assists per season for the next 15 years. I want that for him because this guy has a talent like no other. But let me tell you, so did Freddie Edu, so did Robinho, so did Ronaldinho, so did Mario Götze. We can talk about so many players who never fulfilled their potential because of different reasons. From the mental standpoint, it's a lot, right? It's a lot of pressure. For Lamine Yamal, it just so happens that he takes in these comments and he says, okay, I'll prove you wrong. Trust me. The fact that he has to respond on the field and make a celebration out of it and also post a caption on top of that, it shows me that at those times when you're playing those games, you're not thinking about the tactics or strategies to take on the opponent. You're thinking about what the media said about you. And that's very dangerous. I honestly do think that these people, these journalists who do not help any of these youngsters, even though they might think that they are, these people create twisted campaigns to destabilize these young players. It's not just Lamine Yamal. He just so happens to be one of them. But they make it very difficult for these players to maintain their natural game. And then of course you have these comments that is negative, right? These constant negativities and provocations. It does lead to individualism in the players. That does cause them to overreact and to shut mouths instead of playing your game and the best for your team. So I do want Lamine Yamal to have a very long career. But at 17 years old, you cannot be acting like this. I know that it's a little hard to not act like this, right? To not have an ego, because when you're so good at 17 and you're taking down teams like Bayern Munich, Real Madrid, the French national team, the Netherlands, of course you're going to be having some sort of ego. I think that having a little bit of ego in you is okay. It's fine. Like for me, in my opinion, I do have a little ego myself. I do think that I can build the best Barcelona YouTube channel in the world. I believe that I can be the best sporting director in the world, or I can be the best bodybuilder or fighter in the world. I have those ambitions. But if I get too delusional and I have too much ego, I'm going to be thinking that I'm already there when there's a lot of work to be done. So the same thing has to be done with Lamine Yamal, and I hope that Barcelona support players like Yamal and even Pedri, as a matter of fact, since we're talking about youngsters, to manage these pressures, these negative comments, and to be stoic and to continue to work every day, to be consistent, to not think about what others are saying, and to think about how can you improve yourself that's going to benefit the people around you. And let me tell you, Barcelona have all the teachers in the world to make sure that Lamine Yamal does get placed in the right direction. Barcelona can easily say, hey, look, we have brought up a player like Lionel Messi before. Messi was not out here listening to these comments, or was not even listening to the negative comments or trying to prove a point to somebody. Messi was always working to himself and trying to understand how can he get the best out of FC Barcelona. What part can he play to make Barcelona win the treble? Barcelona have actual evidence and facts and stories that they can tell to these youngsters. They can say the same thing about Johan Cruyff, the same thing about Pep Guardiola. They have players to give them context on how the football world does work. They can tell you what worked, what did not work based off their personalities. The player overall must stay firm and to distance themselves from this nonsense. Like I've said, again, for this situation alone between this journalist from the Netherlands and Lamine Yamal, that's okay. It's fun, right? It happened one time. Maybe Lamine Yamal might respond again to a different journalist in about 3 years, but if it keeps happening every weekend, no, that's not it. It's going to lead towards a very bad route. And so that is it. That is going to be wrapping up today's video. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you guys in the next one.